Welcome to the Best Sports Betting Podcast, where we'll talk about reviews, previews, tips, and all things betting related. Brought to you by bestsportsbetting.co.za. Now, on to our hosts.
How's it, punters? Welcome back to the Best Sports Betting Podcast. It's been a while. We've been on a short 6-7 week break, but we are back. Simon's with me as always. Simon, how have you been? How's the things looking over there stateside with the elections and all that jazz?
Well, yeah, it's certainly been an interesting last while for obvious reasons with the election and so on. But yeah, I'm actually returning home to South Africa in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, it's been an interesting time in sports recently too, with the Masters happening this weekend. And yeah, we'll get into that shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah, you must be glad to be getting out of the circus. That's going on stateside.
Hopefully dodging a potential civil war. So
yeah.
Take it home.
Yeah, so the Masters, I had a couple bets. I've been using MG Sports Betting. They've got that lacquer bonus that we'll chat about a bit later, as well as the site. But just on the Masters, I had everyone but Johnson. I did manage to pick up Johnson. I think it was on exactly halfway through. I picked him up to be the top American at 3-1. So I actually got a pretty decent price there, and I think I'd actually intended to bet on him to win it, but I ended up taking him top American. So I did make back some of the money that I bet, which was mostly free bets from that offer. So I've managed to turn my initial, a 2,000 Rand match into 2,000 Rand bonus. Yeah. I've managed to turn that into about 3,200 of actual cash. Pretty much mostly on Masters and a couple of other NFL things. But yeah, going back to the Masters, how was your betting? How did you find the Masters?
Oh, that's interesting, Rob. Just before I tell you about my bets, I mean, that's interesting. I didn't actually know you could take markets like Top American in play. That's quite interesting. I never actually checked that out. So that's good to know. Was that also with MG, I'm assuming?
Yes, and I can't tell you exactly if it was in play. I was checking the scores and then I was taking the bets. So it was coming up and it was there and then it was gone. Check it out next time. But I can't conclusively say that I was actually betting in play. Okay. But they did have the markets up continuously after each round, which was good.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it was. It's a pity we didn't obviously get to give our picks for this one before. But yeah, it's still fun to talk about what happened. Yeah, I mean, the event wrapped up on Sunday, and it was a great tournament, but obviously not the closest finish, with Dustin Johnson winning by 5 strokes. Of course, no fans at Augusta, which was certainly different.
Yeah.
It's normally brimming with people. But interesting enough, a lot of the players who were interviewed said that having no fans actually helped them a lot in terms of seeing the angles of some of their shots, where obviously there'll be people hugging the fairways really tightly and so on, and it's obviously more difficult then to see where your ball is going to be going and kind of envision the shot more easily. So that actually helped them also concentrate on their game a bit, which I thought was quite interesting. Because kind of the common narrative is quite the opposite. The fans rile the players up and help them and so on, but I guess it's not always the case. Yeah, I mean, obviously having Dustin Johnson, the world number one, put on the green jacket was not exactly the most surprising thing, but at the same time, I think he kind of went a bit under the radar in this tournament.
He did, yeah. I had quite a few bets, and he just never popped up. And when I did look at him, I just wasn't too impressed by the odds.
Right,
so
of course.
That was another thing that I did take into account.
I mean, that's often the case with him. He actually ended up scoring the lowest total ever recorded over 72 holes at this major, which was 20 under par. And believe it or not, Cameron Smith and Sung Jae Im, who both tied second, and they were 5 shots behind at minus 15, they had the lowest score for any non-winners at the event. So in other words, if they would have been the leaders if Johnson hadn't been so dominant. So it's pretty unfortunate for them. From a betting perspective, I had John Rahm, I had Brooks Koepka, I had Paul Casey, I had Zach Johnson top 10, which I always take in the majors, and I actually had Cam Smith, thankfully, which ended up saving me exactly kind of in the same way you did, in that that bet kind of covered all my. I just had him for a place for a small stake. and that ended up covering exactly to my entire stake for the tournament. So that kind of worked out quite nicely. But I don't know, Rob. Did you something I just wanted to chat to you about? Did you see Tiger Woods at all in the final round and his 7 over on the last hole, on the last one?
No, I did read about it though. I didn't actually see it. I did read about it. He was playing pretty well for the first 2 rounds, and then he also just kind of dropped off.
He actually was playing very well, and he looked solid for the first 2 days. But on day 4, he scored 7 over. It was on the very tricky par 3, which is the 12th. And he hit the ball 3 times into the water, twice off the tee, and then once out of a bunker right across the green into the water.
Just unlucky, eh?
And at the end of the tournament, it was quite funny because, I mean, he was sitting in the studio, or the clubhouse where they do the presentation for the Green Jackets. And he was just looking like probably the glummest I've ever seen him. And, he can look very glum when he...
Yeah, he just generally does look kind of glum.
Yeah. I can only imagine what it must feel like to drop 7 shots on one hole when it looked like you were kind of certain to get a top 10, so that's really unfortunate, but I couldn't help but be amused by that.
Very, very unfortunate for Tiger, but at least he's had a decent showing, I thought, overall.
He did, especially coming in bang out of form. I mean, he didn't look anyway. I thought he might not even make the cut, and he actually played very well for the first 3 days.
Yeah. Right, then just jumping on to some tennis, Simon. You've got some tennis bets coming up for us for the ATP you mentioned.
Yeah, so it's the ATP finals at the moment, which this tournament sees the top 8 players in the world face off, and what it kind of crowns the overall champion. So this event doesn't get as much interest from fans or the TV coverage for that matter as the 4 Grand Slams, but it's still fun to watch. I quite like it because it's also played only at night, and it's got this kind of like Royal Rumble, WWF kind of feel to it, with all these like lights and these grandiose like entrances for each player, and like it's just very different for tennis. So I quite enjoy it. But anyway, I mean, unsurprisingly, Djokovic is the favorite. But what I think's worth noting here is that it's the only trophy that's missing from Nadal's cabinet, and 2020 looks to be his year, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him lift the trophy, and he's actually 5-1 to win the thing. So I think that to me looks much better value than Djokovic's 15-10. But that's the outright markets. But there's a tip. I have a tip for today, which kicks off at 10 p.m. SA time, which I really like the look of from a value perspective. And that's Andrei Rublev to beat Stefanos Tsitsipas at even money. Tsitsipas looks to really lost his focus this season, and the Russian Rublev, he looks far more determined and is kind of moving in the opposite direction. If you look at all the key stats and numbers, break hold percentages and so on, they're almost identical over the short term. So if you're going to give me slight odds against in what looks like a coin flip game, I'm going to take it every time. So I like Rublev at evens, and that, as I said, that matches at 10 p.m. this evening. So to me, that looks like a very decent bet in the ATP finals today.
Okay, well, cool. Thanks, Simon. I haven't had a look at any of the upcoming tennis, so I'm just going to blindly back you on that one. I was just having a quick look at some of the odds on MG Sports, and you can get Rublev for a shade under that, so 1.99, so pretty spot on there with
1.99. That's still value. I mean, obviously, as soon as you start getting under 1.9, then you're kind of losing your edge there. But I honestly, he's actually in terms of stats. It's
sorry, correction there. He's 2.04, so slightly over.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so you're actually getting 21 to 20. That's really, really good value. As I said, this really should be a coin flip game, and she should be getting 1.9 on him. So I think that's great value. As I said, this game could obviously, based on the odds you can see, go either way. But you're basically taking the bookmaker's edge by taking this bet, I feel, in a coin flip game. So it's definitely a bet for me.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for the insight there. Let's jump on to some Premier League. We're coming off a break. We're coming off international fixtures. There's Corona spreading around. Players are expected to play. Pretty interesting weekend coming up. Some of the odds are pretty interesting as well. I had a look earlier, and some that jumped out to me was you're getting close to even money on Liverpool at home to Leicester. That was something that, I know they're missing players and whatnot, but wow, pretty crazy odds out there. You're getting only 5 to 10. Is that 5 to 10 on Chelsea against Newcastle?
Yeah,
crazy. So good odds on Liverpool there, but terrible odds on Chelsea. I'm looking at a couple of games here. There's a few kind of contrarian views that I have this week, Simon. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a good card on Saturday. We've been talking all season, if you like, or whenever we have a podcast about how terrible the Saturday EPL cards have been, and this one looks pretty cool, especially considering there's only 4 games. Funny enough, so I have two bets I like this week. One of them is actually Chelsea to beat Newcastle on the Asian handicap. And Newcastle have been tricky to beat lately, I have to admit. But, I mean, I think Chelsea come into this game in arguably their best form all season. They had a 3-0 win against Burnley the last time they played away from home, and they've been rock solid at Stamford Bridge for the last 10 or so games. So I actually like Chelsea for the win here, but taking Chelsea on the -1 Asian handicap, you can get odds of 1.75. So what that would mean then is that Chelsea, if they win the match by 2 goals, your bet would win. But if they only win by 1 goal, your full stake is refunded. And obviously, if they draw or lose the match, you lose. So just a little bit of, obviously not as a stronger bet as the full -1, but just having that little bit of insurance. I think is a good bet. So Rob, it seems like you think the opposite of that.
Yeah, I quite fancy Newcastle on the double chance, just because of the odds. 2.41 for Newcastle, who have kind of proven to be a bit of a bogey team for Chelsea in the past.
Sure.
I think Newcastle have had a pretty decent start to the season. They've scored lots of goals. Look, they've conceded lots of goals as well. They've caused a couple of upsets and whatnot. But I think the odds are a little bit crazy if you ask me. I mean, Chelsea 1.5. That's just way too short for me to look at anything on that side. So I'll go with Newcastle double chance at a shade over 2.4, just purely because I think Newcastle are quite capable of pulling a draw off.
Well, it's always good when we disagree on the podcast because it makes fun for next week, right? So.
Yeah. And like I said, I've got some contrarian views this week.
Okay. And then, Saturday Spurs host Man City. And Man City find themselves in 10th on the table, which, in the beginning of when the season's just starting, obviously it's a bit kind of random. It depends on the strength of schedule for each team. But, they can't. Pep Guardiola can't be feeling too comfortable with them being in 10th place now after how many weeks have been played of the league. What do you think of this game, Rob? What do you think of the odds, and who do you think will take this one?
It's a tough one. I was looking at this game as well, and I was looking with an eye of taking Spurs in some form, and looking at the double chance, but I was getting 1.9 around there, and it just wasn't enough for me. So I think this is one for me to kind of steer clear of. I haven't had much luck on Spurs this season. Haven't had much luck on City. This one looks like a draw to me.
Yeah, I know it is a tough one to call. And just going back to the game you were talking about earlier, I'm with you 100% on Liverpool. Obviously, they're hosting the table toppers, Leicester City. But 9 to 10 on the current champions looks a very backable price, even against the leading team. Leicester. I don't read too much into head-to-heads generally because I think so much changes, over seasons with new managers and players. But Leicester haven't beaten Liverpool in any competition in nearly 4 years. So I think nearly even money is a very decent price on Liverpool.
And that was my other bet for the weekend, was Liverpool at that price. It's just too good to turn down. Even if you want to maybe pop in a double chance if you're taking some accumulators or doubles, 1.28 on that's not bad either as a bit of a value stuffer. I don't think there's going to be too many goals in that game. I'm looking at the over 2.5, 1.5. That's not enough for me to get interested. I'd rather kind of lean under 2.5 there, but I'm not taking that. I'm just going to go with the straight win on Liverpool. I think that's going to be my probably my best bet for the week. I'm surprised to see the odds of that, even though they are missing players and all of that jazz. I just think it's a little crazy.
Sure, I agree.
So here we go. We have my combined Newcastle to win or draw and Liverpool to beat Leicester. If I put a tasty $200 on that, it's going to return close to R1,000, 974. And I'll be getting a 28 Rand boost from MG Sports Betting, who we're going to be talking about next, Simon.
Fantastic, yeah. I know that you, well, both of us, in fact, used their deposit bonus this weekend for the Masters. And I mean, I can't rate this bonus high enough. I mean, considering the fact you're getting 2,000 on your first deposit, 100%, and then another 1,000 on your second, 50%. That combined with the fact that your wagering is only one time. And most bonuses, of course,
you just have to bet the bonus, basically.
Right. You just have to. Well, you have to bet your deposit on the bonus. Yeah. But normally you're looking at sort of 3, 4, 5 times a wagering. So I think it's a great deal. I also managed to find some really good odds on the golf with MG. Some of them way out of line with the average odds I was finding on other sites. So I managed to get some good value there too, even though I didn't end up with any winners.
Yeah, I also took quite a few bets on the golf this weekend. I took some NFL. I think I took a little bit of rugby, a little bit of soccer. Played around quite a bit, and I was pretty impressed with everything. I did want to see more markets for the golf, kind of in-play markets that you see at some bookmakers. But hey, I mean they've got horse racing and they've got other things as well, which kind of separates them from other bookies. And as you mentioned, that bonus is really, really good.
Yeah, and I mean, the other promotions they've got, which are great. They've got cashback bonuses and those ACCA bonuses too. Obviously, increasing with the amount of legs you put into your bets. And I mean, if you're a cricket fan, there are some especially good promos, and they've also got a lot more betting markets on every game than some of the other bookmakers do. So, if you're into IPL and other cricket, you're going to find a lot to bet on at MG. And then obviously they also have lucky numbers and bet games and a bit of live roulette and Keno too, which I know Keno is not available at a lot of other bookies. Rob, so what do you think of
but
that side of things?
no live games, which is a bit disappointing. And
Yes.
The bet games could have a bit of a wider variety, but hey, they've got the OG ones there. The virtual games, I did have a look at the Keno and the Spin and Win. Spin and Win, I don't know, not really for me. Keno seemed alright. The live games, as I said, was just the bet games and that live roulette, which I'd rather play some of the Evolution ones. I mean, you can't have an upside to everything, but they've got a really nice bonus. They've got good odds. That's what most sports bettors are going to care about.
I also like the look of their site. I mean, I like the sort of gold and black. It's easy on the eye. It kind of feels like you're in dark mode, when you're browsing the site in dark mode. It makes me want to hang around there. It's just like, compared to some of the other sites, which are a little bit of an eyesore.
Yeah, a bit vintage.
Especially if you look at them for a long time, right? And I just think it's got quite a nice layout and design, and it's a good user experience.
Yeah, I agreed. And just talking about that bonus that you mentioned, the soccer ACCA bonus, it's such a good bonus to use with some of the good odds. So the odds that you're getting at MG are generally going to be a little bit better than other bookmakers. And if you're going to be playing ACCAs, you can combine those into even better odds. Let me do a quick example here. We'll take Newcastle. Well, let's take Chelsea to win. And let's take some of the favourites: Chelsea, Manchester United. Let's take Liverpool there. So we've got these 3 teams. Let's take Arsenal. So we've got these 3 teams, and you're going to get 9.14 on those teams. But if you put down 100 Rand, you're going to get a nice 5% bonus on that as well, on the winnings. So you're going to get an extra 45 Rand in winnings, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's numbers like that really do stack up at the end of the day, and they do help make you a more profitable punter.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah, so that's it. Simon, anything else before we end off the show today?
No, I think that's it. I just had that ATP finals tip, which I was going to end with, but we've given that out already. But I think that's about it from me.
Right, awesome. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in, and Simon, I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a good one, guys.
Awesome, Rob.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to visit our site, Facebook and Twitter pages. Let's go make some money.